You have questions, we have answers. This is Jane Muller.
And this is Ken Muller. Welcome to our show, all about real estate with Ken and Jane. Today, we're going to talk about the logistics industry and what a game changer it has been for both economically and environmentally in New Jersey. And we have as our special guest, David Greek. David is the managing partner of Greek Development and also the chairman of Circulate, New Jersey. David,
thank you for having me. Really excited to be here. Really excited to be back. It's been, I think, a couple of years since I've been on the program, but
That's right.
Yeah, but you're still a young man. So.
Plenty more to come.
Yeah, absolutely. We really enjoyed the last show where we focused more on Greek development, your warehousing, and all that. How you expanded your services to third-party management, and you keep growing and changing with the times, which is great. So this show, we want to talk more about the logistics industry in New Jersey in general. And then, so let's talk about your journey, how you became the managing partner of Greek Development and how you got involved in Circulate, New Jersey.
Absolutely. I'll start a little bit about myself. Let me actually zoom out and talk a little bit about the company history, and that really informs my role in it. My grandfather, Frank Sr., started the company in the mid-1930s, really as a contracting firm. Very, very small. He really bootstrapped his way into the business. His first job was worth about $500 as a porch on the back of a house in Englewood. He grew that contracting business, and by the 1950s, he started buying property of his own and developing for himself, mostly up in northern Jersey, Englewood, Tamawa area. My father, grew up around that and grew up around the contracting and the development business. He decided to become an engineer, went to Georgia Tech, and then joined the Army and was a paratroop instructor for 4 years. After he got out, he came back to New Jersey and joined up with my grandfather. And at that point, he really moved the firm from northern Jersey down to where we are today in East Brunswick. He also really hyper-focused our development on just industrial. And really since the mid-1960s, that's where our focus has stayed. Today, we have maintained our contracting kind of identity, and so we still self-perform all of our own construction. We've also, as we talked about on the last show, and as we've been working very hard on for the last couple of years, expanded all the services that we do for ourselves to third-party services. So not only do we build our own buildings, but we manage them, both asset management and property management, and we do that both for our own portfolio as well as for other investors that own buildings in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, where we primarily manage. My journey, I, like my dad, I grew up around the business. I learned a lot just having dinner with him every night. So I kind of came into, by the time I got to college, came in with this kind of advanced set of knowledge that most other people didn't have about the status of the market and how it worked. And particularly, something that's important to New Jersey development is politics and how those politics intersect with land use. So having that as kind of my basis, I went to Georgetown, studied finance, really kind of thought I wanted to go into Wall Street, but eventually got some exposure to the real estate industry through internships and figured out that's exactly what I want to do. So my senior year, my dad came to me, said, if you'd like to learn from me, now's the time. You got to come now. And so that really dictated my decision to come straight from school to East Brunswick and start working with him. He really used me as an analyst to begin. And so I started underwriting deals, and I did it very differently than the way he did it because he used one of those calculators with the tape roll in it, and that's how he ran all of his math, which is fascinating for a guy that developed millions of square feet, did it mostly on a typewriter.
Without computers.
I remember in our older office, my office was right next to his, and I could hear that ticker tape going, and I knew he was starting to work on something. And I expected him in my office with a roll of ticker tape about 5 minutes later saying, look at this, does this make sense to you? We should do this. So I kind of missed that, but he is still very much involved in the investment decision making for our family and for the company. but has really taken a big step back away from the day-to-day management of it. So that is mostly myself and my 3 other partners in the business. We each have our own kind of specialty. I oversee a lot of the business, but we have a managing partner in charge of our management division, a managing partner involved in charge of our construction division, and one in charge of our development work. And the 4 of us really run the company together.
Wow.
Powerhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so good. I bet growing up, you got a firsthand knowledge in the construction aspect, how the warehouses are constructed, from whether they bring the prefab sections in, and how the footings are laid, how the whole thing goes together.
So this is my first job as a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
My dad put me on a labor crew with the concrete team, and I'd wake up at 3 a.m. in the summertime and get to the job. It was not fun for a 16-year-old to wake up at 3 a.m.
But it's the best way to learn.
It was the best way to learn.
So now you can talk intelligently when you're talking with the engineers or the construction managers about the job, and if they explain there's a delay and what the delay is.
Exactly.
And, you have all the other financial and investment academics to back it, but at least the bread and butter construction, which is I think a key. Fundamentally, you have mastered that, which
it is. I think it differentiates us as a company and me individually, because we do really, really care about how these buildings are built and who builds them. And I think the most gratifying part about that teenage job is we still have guys on that crew that were working with me back then, and they still remember me out there sweating and pouring concrete with them, and they still appreciate it. So that's probably the best thing that came out of it.
You're such a big company, but yet you're like a family still. At least that's how I feel when I do deals with you guys. It feels like you own this vast portfolio of real estate, but it seems like it's a family base. You have a very good crew of yourself, your leasing representatives. So it's just it has that family feel to it.
Thank you for saying that, because it's really important to us to maintain that feel, and we would like to continue to grow, but we don't want to lose that aspect of our culture and the way that we deal with our partners and deal with our own employees. So thank you for saying that.
That's great. So let's now switch. You're also the chairman of Circulate New Jersey. Let's talk about what is Circulate New Jersey all about, and how did that form, and what are its goals and initiatives?
Circulate is it's an advocacy group basically for the logistics industry within New Jersey. And it's really been something that is the culmination of a lot of different discussions between a lot of different groups. The origins of it came from, I have been a part of, NIOP is a national networking and lobbying organization that is really fights on behalf of the entire commercial real estate industry. There's as part of their lobbying team, there's something called the Developers Political Action Committee that I've been part of for close to a decade now. That's most of the active developers in New Jersey coming together and talking about what political issues there are today and how we can, influence the people making policy in order to make those better for our industry. And frankly, the last 5 years, that group has been on defense most of the time. There's been a lot of really negative legislation that has run through New Jersey in particular and other places across the country. So that group has felt on its back foot, and particularly over the last 3 years, to me, it felt like when we would get together as an organization, it almost felt like a therapy session where it was just, a lot of grief over what we have been put through, especially on the entitlement process, and a lot of the pushback that we're getting both from local officials and from the public. And I think the thing that was causing the most amount of grief is the facts weren't being represented correctly. And there was a lot of misinformation and a lot of gaslighting happening by various different constituencies to make our projects look bad for local communities. But what we knew as developers was we bring a lot of good to communities, both in the construction of the projects and when the projects are complete and leased and creating jobs and tax revenue. So there was this increasing desire from the team I'm part of to really start to try and correct that narrative. But we didn't really have a platform to do it on, and the Developer Political Action Committee is a lobbying group, and we didn't feel like, trying to change public opinion was the right role for a lobbying group. So that's where the idea for Circulate came on. I kind of raised my hand, and along with Dan Kennedy, the president of NIAP New Jersey, we started putting together a coalition to help drive this. And I think that's probably the most important part of what we did, is bring together a lot of different aspects of the logistics industry under one coalescing group that had the same goal. One thing I learned throughout that process is, trucking is really, really important to New Jersey economy, to
absolutely
the nation's economy, right? But the trucking industry, its advocacy is so fragmented. There's, probably 20 different trucking advocacy groups in New Jersey alone.
Oh, interesting.
And so it was hard for them to speak with a unified voice. But we were able to bring a couple of them in under the Circulate umbrella, and it's been really, really nice to watch them start to collaborate with each other, start to kind of get on the same page in terms of what strategies are important, what to prioritize. And I think just bringing the industry together in a way that hasn't been done on a regular basis has helped us form a strategy and become a little bit more powerful in how we are sending that message out to the world.
Mm-hmm. Right. And we should say logistics encompasses trucking, warehousing, distribution,
the ports.
So it's a lot of different industries that work together in making and ensuring that our goods get timely delivered in accordance with the e-commerce evolution, which everybody wants their goods now, but they have to realize the goods have to be stored somewhere to get distributed. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after these messages. Okay, welcome back. So, David, let's continue our discussion on Coalition New Jersey. We're speaking about logistics. So I'll let you explain. Please explain the huge economic impact that logistics provides to the private New Jersey economy in terms of the number of jobs, percentage of the workforce, et cetera.
It's massive. And actually, before I get into the actual numbers, one thing that we are working on right now at Circulate, and something that's honestly frustrated me since we started, is we don't have good enough statistics around the impact. So a lot of the statistics that we're using, a lot of statistics I'll cite today, are actually based on numbers gathered mostly in 2020. And the reason I call that out is one of the most transformative things that has happened in my lifetime to the logistics industry is the COVID pandemic. Yes. That really changed a lot of the way people think about distributing goods. It really changed the public awareness of the supply chain in a big way that has both been good and bad for our industry. And most importantly for this discussion, it created a ton of jobs. So we're citing numbers around 450 to 500,000 jobs in New Jersey associated with logistics. I believe and anecdotally kind of know that is drastically undercounting the amount of jobs, because it's not including the last 5 years where we saw tremendous growth. But even based on those kind of stale statistics, we're talking about somewhere between 10 and 12% of the entire New Jersey GDP is made up within this industry. There's really nothing else that compares on a single contribution to our economy. This shouldn't be a surprise, right? We are located in one of the best logistical locations in the world. We're right between two major ports, two major population centers. So from a traditional global distribution perspective, we've always been really set up very well in New Jersey to take in goods from abroad and distribute them across the country. But you mentioned e-commerce earlier, and that's been a big driver as well. New Jersey, as we all know, is the densest population in the entire country, and that is really important for e-commerce distribution. So not only do we have the benefits of having great port infrastructure, we have the benefits of having a great dense population that's relatively easy to distribute to, has a high income and high education level, and are good consumers.
Nowadays, the people not patient, right?
Yeah.
Used to be you call someone, you leave a message, you wait for them to call you back. Now, my phone, like during the taping, if they call me, I'm not answering. They keep calling.
Yep.
They figure if they keep calling, you will answer, or they will call someone else, right? Like you're talking about this, right? Just like people buy things online. I mean, I was amazed, right? One day, my brother just had a surgery, so I want to buy air purifier, just during the COVID, I want to purifier for him. I ordered it, and they give me a choice of time in the next 4 hours. 4 hours? And I clicked, I just try it, right? Yeah. And then in 3.5 hours, my sister-in-law texts me, say, oh, thank you for the gift, thank blah, blah, blah. I said, oh my God,
amazing.
They got
And that
there.
was, I believe, a Sunday or Saturday.
So yeah, that was a weekend.
About a weekend off hours. I would think it was the same day delivery, which is...
But it's like 2-3 hours later, they got the big machines. Oh.
This is some of the irony, I think, that we are trying to highlight from Circulate is the demand from customers to have products quickly on demand, but not wanting the infrastructure that's required to make that happen anywhere close.
That's impossible. So you can't do that. You can't have your cake, and it's like...
exactly. You don't want to be near you, and you won't get your goods. You get
That's
goods
right.
much faster.
There's trade-offs, right?
Yeah.
If you don't want any logistics facilities close to you, then you're not going to be able to get your goods when you need them. And that
before you need them, in my case.
Exactly. I think COVID certainly taught a lot of people that the importance of next day delivery is not necessarily just about the convenience, right? It's also a matter of this can actually really drastically improve people's lives.
Oh, it does. I can tell you, David, right? As a mother, during the COVID, how many times I just realized my daughter needs something from school. You know what? She just told me when I get home 9 p.m.
Yep.
Okay? So 9 p.m., I just got home, haven't ate dinner. I was on road the whole day. And she said, Mommy, we need this. Oh, thank you. You put but when you need it, Friday, it was already Wednesday night, Thursday, So I quickly jumped online and ordered it. And you know what? They deliver next day, Thursday. So she can have it. She can work on it. She can use it, especially the calculator before exam, or the parts of the music thing.
So in a direct way, warehousing and distribution are improving people's lives because they're making the goods available to them that they need, whether it be, for consumers, contractors need certain goods that they get online. There's all sorts of, it's a major, massive medical supplies. Band-Aids, it might be things, masks, it might be everything. There's so much things that are in warehouses.
I just want to point out that it is really servicing some of the most vulnerable populations, right? Because if you are disabled or simply a single mother with not enough time to visit the grocery store or the department store.
That's a good,
right? So this is really the biggest benefits come to the people who need it most.
Yes.
And I think COVID gave people a little slice of that, right? Yeah. Because we were kind of stuck in our houses and didn't have the ability to leave. So next day delivery became a lifeline for a lot of people. There's a decent section of our population where that is everyday life for them. And that is, it doesn't matter whether there's a pandemic or not. They need goods delivered to them, whether that's because of their schedule or their economics. Any of the above.
And warehousing provides a lot of different goods. We don't realize there's restaurants that need warehouse goods, so the places that you dine at. Like for example, we're doing a lease for a warehouse, one of your locations, that's a bubble tea. They're going to supply the restaurant. It's a restaurant. So people have a conception that warehouses contain these 55-gallon drums of gasoline and things, but that could be further from the truth. Sometimes they're gyms or flex facilities. They're all different, innocuous, clean usage that people just need things for storage because we have such a dense population. So there's a lot of misperception just on the materials and what goes into a warehouse.
Yeah, and look, it's one of the beautiful things about the warehousing space is that it can be pretty much anything, from a retail type use down to a really intense manufacturing use and anything in between. I often have to educate people on the types of tenants that we have because people do assume that it's mostly 55-gallon drums sitting in a warehouse. It's not. We have a cricket training facility. We have a couple pickleball facilities. We have some childcare. We have quite a bit of pharmaceutical manufacturing, and this is kind of a second pillar of Circulate in terms of our messaging is not just that this type of development and these types of facilities create jobs, but they create really, really, really good jobs.
Yes.
And a variety of jobs too, right? So I mentioned pharmaceutical. We know pharmaceutical facilities employ a lot of PhDs. Sure. They're very high-paying positions. These are very sought-after positions, and they can be very stable and very well-paying for an entire career. On the other side of that, on the distribution side in particular, there's a lot of entry-level type positions that are open that have low skill barriers to entry. Mm-hmm. And one thing I've been trying to put out there is if we look at somebody coming into the workforce with low skills that doesn't have a whole lot of education or resources behind them, their options for employment are relatively limited today. Mm-hmm. If we look at the universe of where they can go work, on the warehousing side, there's a lot of benefits to going that direction. Yeah. If you compare it to, for example, working retail, that can be short-term. It often comes with short-term employment arrangements that are either seasonal or might not include a full suite of benefits. They're really not set up for a long-term career. Mm. Warehousing can be, and for many people is. You can start on the bottom rung and come in with very little of a resume behind you, and it gives you the opportunity to grow and have a career. And often today, the employment opportunities are so competitive within the logistics space because there's been so many jobs created that the benefit packages you get from the companies employing and distribution are so much better than any other entry-level job. So better base pay, more stability, better benefits, a potential career. And Amazon gets quite a bit of bad press, but some of the stuff they've done for their employees has really changed the business.
Yeah, and they give great benefits
too. They do. And they pay for education.
Yeah,
and
they fund the education, so they encourage their employees to advance, which is a great company thing.
It really is.
And I think on your website it said that the average is about $75,000 for the New Jersey logistics employee.
Yeah, which is well above the state average.
Well above the state average. Yeah. Yeah, but right, like in the warehouses, there are opportunities for forklift operators, managers. You can work your way up and
you can go to school at night, Mandy. Yeah. I did my college part-time, work full-time, go part-time. A lot of big companies offer, the scholarship or partially scholarship to help you. I mean, I'm the beneficiary of such a system, and I work and then went to the college and I get help from the employer. Yep. Work your way up and then did your undergraduate, did your master's degree, and then be more employable. You can get a better job for yourself and also helping more. You have ability to help others.
Exactly.
Who helped you, so, it's like a circle.
But you guys are making the forklift operators' jobs a lot harder by building these high warehouses now. But I guess they have the machinery now that can go. What is the norm now is, or the new construction norm is what, 40 feet?
40 feet clear in the interior. Wow. And that's really to maximize the amount of vertical storage,
which is everything. Which is everything,
It's everything. And there's kind of an old joke in the logistics industry that the tenants pay the landlord by the square foot, but they really use the space by the cubic foot.
Yeah, that's true.
The higher we build them, the more efficient the operation can be within the building. And certainly, we've built higher than 40 feet, not to go down too much of a rabbit hole, but we've built up to 80-foot clear interiors.
Wow.
And I guess for special type of manufacturing. With
particularly for cold storage, they often go higher than 40 feet for a lot of different technical reasons I won't get into. But those forklifts are really cool.
Oh my God. Man, probably really expensive.
Really, really expensive. Very not something you would put in your garage for sure. But they're very cool to see. Wow,
that is good. So so New Jersey logistics is certainly the game changer for the employment. I think it's about over 62 billion of New Jersey's GDP.
That sounds right. Yes,
phenomenal.
And again, there's so many ripple effects to this industry that number is actually much larger. But really, we're trying to contain it to what we can measure. So that, but as we talked about, the quality of the jobs and the spin-off effect on the local communities in terms of where that income goes and where that tax revenue goes. This is not really part of the main messaging of Circulate, but it's something important to note is that. Industrial facilities create a great tax base for towns. They don't contribute to burden on the infrastructure the way that a multifamily housing would.
Right.
They create jobs and they create tax revenue in a way that allows the town to lower property taxes on the rest of their residents.
And there's a local economic base multiplier effect because when those employees come to work, they stop in the local 7-Elevens, the restaurants, the local diners, breakfast, lunch. They may shop there. So
they may live closer.
They may live closer, right?
Exactly.
So it's a win. So like you said, there's such a ripple effect that we can't even measure it. Well, we are out of time on this show, but you've been kind enough to come back next week so we can talk more about New Jersey logistics and get into the environmental improvement that that industry does. All right. I hope everybody enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next week. Back again with David Greek, managing partner of Greek Development and chairman of Circulate New Jersey. Thanks. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.